discussion come at the end, focusing on subaltern linguistics, directions and reasons for this kind of research. Thank you, Amma.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the invite. I'm sorry I had to miss most of the sessions. It's partly because I was invited late to the colloquium and I had to work on my presentation this week. Anyway, I finished it this morning, so hopefully it's all together. So I want to start off with some acknowledgements, and I'm going to give my acknowledgements in Urdu, if you don't mind. तो सबसे पहले तो मैं लोगों का शुक्रिया करना चाहता हूँ आप सबका जो आप लोग इधर आए, मगर मैं ये भी कहना चाहता हूँ कि जो हमारा काम होता है, जिस चीज़ों से हम इम्प्रेस होते हैं, जिस चीज़ हमारे ख्यालात बढ़ते हैं, वो एक आदमी या एक शख्स नहीं होता, मगर हमारा पूरा माहौल होता है, और उस पूरे माहौल को हमको शुक्रिया अदा करने की ज़रूरत होती है। मैं यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ सिडनी को और ऑस्ट्रेलिया की गवर्नमेंट का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि इन्होंने मुझे पिछले साल मौका दिया लॉन्ग सर्विस लीव पे जाने का, जिसको मैं इस्तेमाल करके पहली दफ़ा ज़िंदगी में मेरे पास एक अपॉर्चुनिटी थी कि मैं ट्रैवल कर सकूं। मेरे पास इतने पैसे थे कि मैं ट्रैवल कर सकूं, और मेरे पास एक ऐसा पासपोर्ट था जिसकी वजह से मुझे वीज़े की ज़रूरत नहीं थी, मैं पासपोर्ट लेके हर जगह जा सकता था। मैं ऑस्ट्रेलिया के आबाई जो लोग हैं उनका शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ, जहाँ पे मैं जिनके मुल्क में रहता हूँ, और जिनका मुल्क उनका ही मुल्क है, अभी तक उन्होंने कभी किसी को दिया नहीं था, उनसे छीना गया है। और ख़ास तौर पे मैं अपने घर वालों को, अपने ख़ानदान वालों को का शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहता हूँ। और नोट कीजिए, मैं कह रहा हूँ ख़ानदान वालों और घर वालों को, क्योंकि अंग्रेज़ी में मैंने लिखा है फैमिली, तो फैमिली जो है एक बड़ा मुश्किल वर्ड है। फैमिली वर्ड जो है अंग्रेज़ी का है, उर्दू का नहीं है, हिंदुस्तानी का नहीं है। और फैमिली जो है उसको हम समझते हैं न्यूक्लियर फैमिली, हमारे यहाँ ख़ानदान जो है वो फैमिली नहीं होता। तो ये कॉलोनाइजेशन का जो इम्पैक्ट है हमारे यहाँ चला आ रहा है पिछले 250 साल से, उसका जो इम्पैक्ट है उसकी वजह से हम लोग ये भी पूछ सकते हैं क्या, maybe we can ask ourselves, are people like me and people who are immigrants in this generation today, are we the stolen generation, stolen from our homelands and our families? Sorry, it's emotional. Okay, so let me start off by talking about people like me. Unfortunately, these people are not like me because they have to work really hard. Riding taxis and driving motorcycles and bicycles to deliver food to our homes. If you look around, if you live in Sydney, you know most of these kids are students. And if you are around Sydney, you will also probably have noticed that a lot of these kids are actually from South Asia. If you look at the website, you look at these smiling faces, but if you go around the street of Newtown or Glebe and you look at these kids waiting for collecting food, I don't see many smiles on their faces. So we have to ask, what are these kids doing here? Why are they being advertised as people who can deliver food to us while we wait for a flight at an airport? While these kids cannot travel anywhere, and probably if they were, would be stopped at 5 different security terminals before they're allowed to board. So what's going on? If you live around Sydney and if you want to Google on your phones right now, Google image search South Asian food delivery workers in Sydney. I did this last night. I was surprised not to find a single one. You know, after I looked at it, we went out for a little walk. I saw South Asian kids all over the place, but I do not see them on my Google search. Now, you're all familiar with the talk. I forget the name of the journalist right now. A TED talk that was given in Silicon Valley just a couple of weeks ago, where the journalist exposed how Facebook and Google and other internet corporations determine through very complicated algorithms what kind of things you see on your screen when you transition things, what kind of ads do you see. And what we find here is perhaps different from people in other parts of the world. I might be wrong, but I might not be surprised if somebody in Pakistan, for example, does the same Google search. They might find pictures of South Asian kids very happily serving us on Deliveroo and other motorbike companies, food delivery companies. But, and perhaps that's because they need to be socialized into accepting this as their part of life when they come and live in Australia. That's what they should expect. When they come to Australia, they should expect to ride taxis and deliver food for us. But in doing this research, of course, looking at various different sites, you look at research on human rights violation, modern day slavery. This is a 2017 report. Things have only gotten worse since then, where it's pretty clear that international students among others, are exploited in terms of being modern day slaves in our communities that we live in today. Most of you again, Sydney, Australia, last week saw the Four Corners report on cash cows and how these things operate. Now, on the other side, if you are from Pakistan, if I do a Google search on why do Pakistanis migrate, you come across all these sort of issues about what's wrong with Pakistan. I'm from Pakistan, I can tell you there's a lot wrong in Pakistan. Now, here's a course that I'm running online where somebody I shared this information with said I was in Darwin in 2016, met a couple of kids, both from Pakistan, but from Karachi, one from Faisalabad. They each spent almost 17 lakhs. 17 lakhs is about 17,000 Australian dollars. Poor people, poor country is spending $17,000 just so that they can come here. How do they pay the fees after this? How do they even get that $17,000? I'll tell you how they get that $17,000. It is borrowed money. To get a visa into Australia, the Australian government requires a bank statement to be submitted to the Australian consulate. These bank statements are doctored. These bank statements are essentially based on borrowed money, where students who want to come to Australia borrow money for a period of anywhere between 2 weeks to 6 weeks to 8 weeks at an interest rate of somewhere between 15 to 20%. Imagine the money that they pay before they even come to Australia. They've spent all their life savings. This is what makes Australia rich and Pakistan poor. Okay? These are the links. Now I'll come back to this, how this connects to linguistics in a bit. Just like this Monday, I was at Dandy Cinema, and this particular ad was being shown at Dandy Cinema. So I will, you can search for the whole ad later on. I'll show you just a snippet of it, just the last few seconds, if you will.
Loves cricket on football. I love Australia. If I didn't become a taxi driver, I would have left Australia 27 years ago. Run 3 cabs, who will bet you then?
So a person has to come to Australia 27 years ago, and they would have left Australia if they had not become a taxi driver. Could the person not have become a taxi driver at home? I'll tell you, public transportation in Pakistan is a big problem. Right? Why do they have to come and drive taxis here when we need taxi drivers in Pakistan? Right? And this person, if you look at the description here, if you look at the bottom here, it says a genetic scientist from Pakistan. This is a genetic scientist who Pakistan has spent money on educating, training, spent money on invested money, and this person, as soon as they could, left Pakistan because the discourse that I grew up in, as soon as you can, leave Pakistan. That is the discourse we grow up in. We need to leave Pakistan because Pakistan is a bad place, because Pakistan can't give us anything. We don't have a discourse of saying, why don't we stay and make things better? Now, this is a discursive practice, which is an academia. The universities are very much part of it, and I'll come back to that. We've seen this. So what happened last year? As said, I had a chance to take long service leave, and at some point in time, I was mostly backpacking, not staying at fancy hotels, mostly staying at really shaggy sort of, not places where I would like to stay again. I'll tell you that, but it's definitely served a purpose, and it was good to be with the people. And it is there that I realized that my life had become one of a poster boy. I was essentially, I was essentially a poster boy, celebrating a lot of different things. I was a member of the board of directors of TESOL International, if you know what that is. I was the editor of the TESOL Quarterly, the top tier journal within the field of TESOL. I was running conferences. I was doing all the things that a very successful academic in the West should do. When it hit me that I was the poster boy which was attracting people to leave their countries and come here, I had to stop that. And I just met somebody I not met for a long time. I last met her in the Philippines a few years ago when I was traveling around, and in fact I introduced her to Ingrid and Noel. She's now doing a PhD with them. So it's so glad to reconnect with people and see wonderful things they're doing, but I also realized I have to stop. And I need to rethink what I'm doing and consider what linguistics is, what the role of English language is in the world today. So how is linguistics to blame? I'm going to take a sip of water. I'll let you read through the slides. We did not name our languages. We did not have name for languages. And we do not appreciate linguists coming and giving us one. It is not something we want. Not having names is a good thing because it does not divide us. As soon as you divide us based on names of languages, based on various features of sounds and morphology and syntax that might be different, but we are still human, when you don't recognize that we live in a complex web of multilingualism, that everybody in Pakistan is multilingual, in multiple languages, that we don't need to speak every language, we can be receptively multilingual. I'll come back and talk about these points, but let's have a look quickly at what the British did. Gilchrist, most of you know the name, extremely influential British linguist, not just a linguist, a statesman. Look at that guy, you can see the portrait, born in the 1700s, was the first person from the British civil services to document Indian languages. First guy. When he went into India, we had no languages. The British thought, they had this perception that Persian was the language of the official courts and that there were other languages around. In fact, by the time the British got there, Persian was no longer necessarily Persian that we think of. The Mughals had been living and had become settled part of the country for hundreds of years. The warfare had ended. Peace had come. The Mughal Empire was at its peak. Akbar, the Mughal emperor, was in the process of creating a new religion called Deen-e-Ilahi, which represented all the various religions of India. Not divisive, united. Those were the ways in which things were happening when the the Europeans first came into India. Instead of recognizing our languages, our cultures, our civilizations, our literature, they made fun of it, they ridiculed it. They denied us our right to have our own languages. They split us. Right here is the text from Gilchrist, dividing Hindi and Hindustani based on religion, a distinction that did not exist in our societies. We did not speak Hindi, we did not speak Urdu. I saw many of you referring to those in your slides. We spoke just a language, Boli. I'll come back to that. We did not name languages. And there were good reasons for it. Right? So here's the source of the book is right there, A House Divided. And the linguists are already aware, I don't need to repeat it. We've been it. Most of the Hindu literature writers were Muslims. Most of the Urdu work, early Urdu work, the writers are Hindus. There was no Hindu-Muslim conflict in there. It was engineered. It was then supported through the use of scripts, differentiating through the script systems of Sanskrit and Persian, dividing us into two different languages based on religion and script. That division did not stop there. They kept going into India, kept expanding the domains of reach, and wherever they went, they named languages. And by naming languages, they devastated our communities. They sowed seeds of destruction and divisions. And that still continues today. We need to stop doing it. We are in South Asia still living in a world of war. Pakistan and India are still at war. Bangladesh is in turmoil. Sri Lanka is in turmoil. Nepal is in turmoil. The whole of South Asia, Southeast Asia, especially South Asia, is in terrible state. Divisions, war, violence, India attacking Pakistan, Pakistan attacking India, Indian military attacking its own people, Pakistani military attacking its own people breaking and colleges, buildings, everything. It's all happening there on the basis of divisions that are based on language, because we gave them the name of a language and we say, this is your identity. In Urdu, We don't link language to identity. There is no relationship between language and identity in Urdu. It only exists in English and Western languages, not in Urdu, and not in most of the indigenous languages of South Asia. I'll come back to that again. But in English, it does. Not just that, in English, human language is contrasted with animal communication. Language is seen as a unique feature of the humans, which is described in a very specific manner. And that's because we reduce language rather than thinking of language as a part of a socio-semiotic system which enables one way of communicating. We take that as a central feature of human communication and meaning making. That is a primary problem within the discipline of linguistics. And that leads us into problems where people talk about questions like pop quiz, language fits with this or that. These might be interesting theoretical questions, fun to talk about in an undergrad or a postgrad class, but I'll tell you, people's lives are affected by how we think about language. If we do not rethink language, if we do not relearn language, we are going to just keep destroying our communities. Why? Because by language, we can create maps like this. We can you can tell which parts of Pakistan speak which language. You can create links like trees like this, showing what the history of languages are and the genealogy of the languages are, and how languages have spread through the world in history with human migrations. You can do that with even bigger families of languages. You can do that because English linguistics permits it. It is English that permits it. It is Western linguistics that permits it. It is not Boli, which is my language. Now, notice, Boli is not the only word in Urdu or Hindi for language. We have multiple words. But Boli is a common word which is spread across many parts of South Asia in variants. In Urdu, in my language, in my mother tongue, Boli is something that humans have. Boli is something that cats have. Boli is something that all the other animals, living organisms, birds, animals, everything has a Boli. Boli is something that the plants have, the trees have, the leaves have. Boli is something that the mountains have, and the rivers have, and the deserts have, and the meadows have. Everything has a Boli. Boli is what the oceans have and the fish have. Boli is everywhere. Everything in the world has Boli. Not just everything in the world has Boli, which of course personifies these things. These are human characteristics of speech that we say that other animals and living things have, non-living things have. But we don't only stop there. In our grammatical system, everything has gender. Everything. Kursi hoti hai, female, feminine. Darwaza hota hai, masculine. Don't ask me why certain things are feminine or masculine. It doesn't matter. It makes no difference. What matters is that we assign gender to everything, just like we assign speech to everything. You know why? Because in our traditional languages, we have respect for the environment and we have respect for other living things, which is inherently missing, unfortunately, in the English grammar. The English grammar separates out pronouns into he, she, and it. Two of those are used for humans, and then it is used for pretty much everything else, including animate and non-animate things. That is why, through English, when you think about governance, you don't think of non-living things as part of governance. In our language, if we think of governance, historically, we have to account for everything that lives and is in our realm, because they are living things for us, they are personified. They have language, and they have gender. And they also have movement. We won't have time to talk about that. So how do we classify languages? We classify languages through relationships. My mother's Boli, my father's Boli, my grandfather's Boli, my partner's Boli, my nephew's wife's Boli, or through locations. गुजरात की बोली, लखनऊ की बोली, दिल्ली की बोली, और दिल्ली की एक बोली नहीं है, दिल्ली की बहुत सारी बोली है. बोलियां नहीं है, no plural. We don't say बोलियां. That might be a word in dialects of Urdu and Hindi, but not in Urdu. And it is not a plural. This is boli, only boli. One boli, 5 boli, 20 boli. We don't differentiate because boli is one. It's a collective noun. And the reason it's a collective noun, the reason we don't have gender, is because we see the world from that positionality. And for us, non-living, non-biological, non-human things are just as important as anything else. Remember that, that's important. If we start thinking of creating linguistics from the perspective of Western languages, then obviously we do what we do. We divide everything up. But imagine if we were to do linguistics from an Urdu perspective or a Hindustani perspective, we would not divide languages, we would have different ways of naming them. I don't even know what that will be because we will have to create it. But this is not unique to South Asia. You know, the idea that there are people that are receptively multilingual has been around the world. There's a recent piece from the Atlantic about an island in northern Australia where there are 9 different languages spoken between 500 people. Not everybody speaks everything, but everybody has receptive multilingualism in all the languages. And sometimes they choose not to speak a language because of the respect that they give the language. So we know we can think about language and Boli in ways that are not Western. And if we think about language and Boli in non-Western ways, we might be able to come up with a linguistics that is much more responsive to our environment and our needs. I don't want to go through all of these things again, but essentially summarizing the argument that if we are to work through the definitions of language through the eyes of Western languages and English, then we will document languages and we will differentiate them based on features of sound that make little difference to people like us. Because we believe in Boli, and Boli is collective. There is no language, there's just Boli, and Boli has no link with identity. Don't break us up. Okay. So what next? Essentially, at this point, I'm almost, as you can see, pretty much disillusioned with every aspect of linguistics as a discipline. I pretty much don't trust anything that linguists say or do. I don't mean to be disrespectful to people. I know people who do linguistics are people with a good heart. They're doing things because they believe in it. They're not doing it because they want to harm people like me. They're doing it because they want to empower people like me. So I understand that. But it's going wrong. So at this point, I'm sort of saying, let's just forget about disciplinary aspects of linguistics, go in and deal with people, work with people using their everyday understanding of the term language, because it's going to be different from my understanding anyway. And getting them to think about language in whatever way they want to create resources, to create economies, to create material, to create policies so that they can empower their own communities. They don't need development aid. Aid is a horrible thing. It enslaves us. We don't need aid. We need ways to self-empower ourselves, and we can only do that if the knowledge construction that we have is based in our own languages. Why? Because every language is its own classificatory system. And if we have to do our sciences, and we have to apply those sciences in our context, we have to do our sciences in our knowledge construction in the languages that are representative of the communities that live there. As simple as that. So in the meanwhile, getting people to do subaltern linguistics. As some of you already know, I've been running a free linguistics conference for years and years and years. So Fred said, okay, I'm going to use this platform to create the subaltern linguistics that I want to, create economies, created language travels, generated thousands of dollars. Most of this was left with the community in Malacca. This project was documented by Lee Chen and was led to her prize-winning master's thesis. I have pretty much stopped publishing for academic journals. I still do that a little bit, but not much. I have shifted to writing mostly for this magazine called We Mountains. It is a magazine that is published by a group of a community of indigenous leaders and languages up in the northern parts of Pakistan. It's a consortium of about 20 plus languages. They manage it, they run it. I want to empower them. And I want to change the idea that impact comes through highly rated publications. In fact, impact for the real people come from writing and talking to them. The only impact that we create by writing for big journals and top name journals is helping our universities get rankings. Rankings are not impact. We confuse the two very often. I can tell you that I published this article in January, a couple of months ago, has been read over 2,800 times. something like that. What is it? Whatever. 2,500 something counts. Tell me what, if I wrote an academic paper and published it even in a top-tier journal, I tell you it will not be read in a matter of 3 months' time. 2,000 people will not read it. The impact of our work and the work we have is huge if we engage with the communities that we are representing, rather than saying that we are going to describe their languages on their behalf, or train their people to describe their languages by themselves. Because those descriptions, in what I see, are divisive. I've created a FLC Language for Life board, pretty much trying to give people some recognition for the work, and notice by just the look of the languages, this information is available in Balochi, Brahui, Chinese, English, Filipino, Punjabi, Pashto, Russian, Saraiki, Turkish. Other languages will add on. We're giving the information to the people. People don't need to have a degree. They don't even have to go to school to apply for this award. Somebody else can apply for their award. Anybody who can demonstrate they are using language to empower their communities. We've got a drawing competition happening where this is global, gone through the internet, essentially getting kids, anybody, to think about why do they love their language, but instead of writing an essay, to show it through drawings. I want to encourage that artwork coming out. I'm offering a global worldwide free course called Doing Subaltern Linguistics. I started a couple of months ago. I have a registration of 410 people from over 70 countries representing over 200 languages. Okay? I work with them through WeChat, WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn, any social media, I'm there. Okay? I've been developing material, developing ways of creating research, calling something called Credible Project. I've been drafting documents on how to actually do this. I've been sharing this on academia, getting feedback from colleagues and collaborators from worldwide, getting them to give me feedback as I develop this work and sharing it with my students, creating how to do it as step-by-step guides, developing all this material, trying it out here with my students as well at the University of Sydney, getting my students at the University of Sydney to work with me, to do the hard work, do the analysis so we can provide and develop guides like how to write a literature review for project development. I posted this document on academia less than 2 weeks ago. Notice already 1,000 views of this document. The impact that this work has, the work that you do for the people, goes out to the people. It may not be reflected in these texts that you capture from top-tier journal publications, but the impact is on the people who use this material and the students who work with me to create it. I'm getting them to think about designs in terms of, here's a design of an idea of how do you create a cigarette disposal in a way that does not encourage smoking, right? So here's an idea of creating a plastic lungs. One side of it will be filled up with dirty stuff, one side of it will stay clean. So it shows you how smoking hurts your lungs by visibly seeing it. And I get them to think about it, not just in terms of language, but in terms of all the 5 various senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. Here's students working this is just last week, actually this week, just a couple of days ago. These are some of the ideas they are working on at the moment. These will all develop. Here's a group of teachers from Punjab, from Rawalpindi, who have developed a set of workshops using puppets and puppetry, teaching kids how to make puppets and use Punjabi to teach science. There's a team of teachers working together with my course. They have been developing scripts in Punjabi, a script of the water cycle. They have been working with the students, teaching them how to do this. These are screenshots of my WhatsApp. You can see this is how I engage with them. They send me pictures, I give them feedback. The green stuff is me, the white stuff is them. They sent me this stuff yesterday. I told them, hey, why are the kids not involved in doing the making of the actual puppets? So guess what they did? This morning I woke up, I woke up, I got these pictures of kids actually being engaged in it. I'll show this very short clip. So you can see things are happening. This is an example from the Philippines, where initially a teacher decided they wanted to get the teachers involved to do some to help kids with their vocabulary learning, But the main idea is getting the parents and school teachers involved in schoolwork, getting the community involved in the school. Imagine so many parts of the world, schools and the communities are separated. So this person has created a sort of a parent-teacher group to help with the kids, and is now trying to expand this. Again, notice in the text, I asked them, are you going to do this again, and how are they going to do it? This is all happening through email. There's a Wawa Dam project in the Philippines, where they are developing material in Filipino language to get people to reduce garbage dumping. There's a conference that was sponsored partly by the University of Sydney, where we had a conference of a number of tribal leaders, community leaders from across northern Pakistan. Jackie Try from the University of Sydney also went there to organize this. I now, at the moment, have developing a project, and I'm trying to get funding from the government of Pakistan to see if we can get a project running on profiling and promoting the languages of Pakistan. Notice the word I'm using is profiling, not documenting, because we can't document languages in South Asia. We can only profile how people use languages in different ways in a community that's extremely multilingual in its orientation. Okay, and I'll leave you guys here. Thank you.